All right, so I'd say about 90% of my work is solo filmmaking. It's just me, my subject, and my camera. No big crew, no assistants, no lighting, no gaffers. And because of that, my filmmaking kit has to be fast, lightweight, and flexible enough to handle both my client work as well as my YouTube and personal Instagram work. In today's video, I want to break down my solo filmmaking kit, basically everything that goes into my backpack on shoot day, and just go one by one through the items that work for me. Let's hop in. All right, so first up is my bag. And what I use currently is the Wandered Provoke V4 31-liter backpack. I've used a lot of backpacks over the years, and through everything that I've tested, I've found that the Wandered Provoke series is probably my favorite. Before the V4, I used the V3, and the V4 came out a few months ago. Basically, it's just a really nice backpack. It's weather resistant, it's got a roll top extension to give you extra space for more gear. And on the inside, I have the camera cube. I think it's a V2. Basically, it's just a padded section to help you organize different things. Inside my backpack, I can fit like 2 camera bodies, 2 different lenses, and my gimbal all in, as well as my laptop and a bunch of other different things. On the backside, you've got 2 nice pouches, and then you've also got different zippers where I oftentimes put little filters and extra batteries. The difference with the V4 compared to the V3 is now you've got this one single unit where you can open up the backpack and quickly access everything. There's no there used to be like a weird, almost divider fabric that kind of got in the way, but they've gotten rid of that. And now it's just one easy open pouch. And also one of my favorite features is this zip at the very top where you can actually access the entire contents of the top section without having to unroll the expansion clip thing. It's a really nice touch. The bag just feels nice and it's easy to carry a lot of stuff. I use it in my travels. I use it almost every single day when I shoot. I like to keep my tripod, which I'll touch upon later, just inside where usually the water bottle area is. I'll strap it in and I'll have 2 of the tripod legs sitting inside that water carrier. And the only other modification that I do is I add on, I think this is a PGY Tech beetle clip, and I strap this onto my left side, I believe it is, left side of the shoulder strap. It's basically a clip that you can anchor into your cameras and just let it sit there for easy access when you're moving, so you have your hands free. It's really useful because you can just latch your camera on your shoulder and become hands free, and it's a pretty big game changer. Inside my backpack, first let's touch on my camera bodies, and this remains unchanged. My favorite camera body as a solo filmmaker is the Sony FX3. I've made a whole video about the Sony FX3. I'll link it somewhere here so you can check that out if you want a more in-depth review. But just really quickly, you probably know by now that the Sony FX3, in terms of its form factor and what it packs in capabilities, it's just unmatched. Some of my favorite features are the dual native ISO. So I think I've got an older firmware. So my base ISO on the low end is 640, and then on the high end, the second dual native ISO is 12,800. Those specs are crazy, and it allows for a really clean image, especially even at like dark situations or at night. Usually I'll just keep it on one of the base ISOs, and then I'll use an ND filter to either dim down and reduce the amount of light I have at the 12,800. But besides that, this camera is amazing. I shoot an S-Log3, you can go 4K up to 120 FPS, I believe. And one of my favorite low-key features of this camera is the dual SD card slot ability. So oftentimes when I'm shooting on client sets, I'll record to both SD cards at the same time, just so that you have a nice active backup and you have peace of mind. I've had memory cards corrupt on me, so you know it's one of the worst things when you lose your files. So just having that peace of mind to record to 2 SD card slots simultaneously is a big deal. And on the FX3, I have this Tilta cage, which is really useful. You can just screw it in here through the base plate, and it's got this cool little key that allows you to screw and unscrew. It's magnetic, it pops right in the bottom. And the Tilta base plate just allows that Arca-Swiss mount to easily mount to tripods. And then also it's got a bunch of different mounting points that you can customize and use, and it's just really useful. I'll have everything that we discussed down in the description below if you're interested at any point to check out any of these items that we talk about today. I'd say like 90-95% of the time I'm using the Sony FX3. When I'm traveling is kind of the only time, or if I need a B cam, is when I bring out the Sony a7C2. The a7C2 is an amazing camera body. It shoots in the same 4K 10-bit space. The only difference kind of is that the base ISOs for this are, I believe, 800 and 3200. This camera is really easy to match with the Sony FX3. The image quality is amazing. It's just that second base ISO that's a major difference. It's a lot smaller than the FX3, which is nice when you're traveling, and you can also shoot photos on this. This is more of a hybrid camera. It allows for great raw photo capture and it's honestly just really versatile. When I'm shooting, I'll typically take this for BTS work, my BTS videographer, or I'll just have it just in case my FX3 something happens, God forbid. Moving on to lenses. Now for lenses, I have a personal system and personal theory that when I go out to shoot, I don't like to take too many lenses. I feel like the choice or the difficulty of deciding when to choose a lens oftentimes slows you down as a personal photographer or videographer. And I want to minimize the amount of times I'm switching through lenses. If you go through one of my previous videos, I talk about how to systemize your shooting schedule, how to make the most out of your timelines. And one of the things I preach is that you just want to minimize and really figure out which lenses you're shooting at which time and just go through everything systematically. So typically on shoots, I'll bring 3 types of lenses. The first is a wide. Wide lenses are great for social pieces and also environmental shots. My favorite and my go-to is the Laowa 10mm f2.8. This lens, along with almost all these other lenses that I'm about to speak about, I've done a dedicated review video on each of these. And the Laowa speaks for itself. I use it a lot in client work. It's autofocus. It's got a pretty crazy minimum focusing distance. You can get even like almost macro style shots with it. If you never tried one out, I highly recommend going to rent or asking a friend if they have one to test it out. Once you play around with the 10mm, you'll realize how wide it is. It's definitely not an everyday lens, but for different specialized and stylistic shots, I think this is a great lens, especially for vertical filmmaking. For the Laowa 10mm, I like to use the Freewell variable ND system. I think this is the magnetic variable ND system. I pair this specific variable ND with the 10mm because the size of the actual filter is huge. It's massive. It basically has a clip-in system where you can step down to, I think the Laowa is like a 77 or 72 filter thread. But basically because the filter is so large, you don't get any noticeable vignette, or it's very minimal. So that's why I like to pair this specific variable ND with the Laowa. You can get the 1 to 5 stop, and also in the kit comes with like a 6 to 9 stop, which you can easily with the magnets just pop on, rotate, and it's got like a built-in CPL as well. When I'm not using the 10mm Laowa, I'm using the 16mm G lens from Sony. This is an f1.8. Again, I've done a whole dedicated review video on this, and it's just a great option. I think for vlogging or just kind of like tighter social pieces, this lens at the 16mm focal point is a great lens to have. It's really tiny as well, so it's super useful. And if I don't have the 10mm, I'm definitely bringing on the 16mm. Moving on, my favorite lens out of this entire kit is the 24mm G Master f1.4 lens. This lens is kind of the sweet spot in terms of quality, versatility, size. It's a relatively small lens and it's very inconspicuous, and it's really easy to get stunning images, especially with that f1.4 shallow depth of field. If you want to look at more into this lens, again, check out my previous review video. But when I'm not using the 24mm, I'm using the 35mm f1.4 G Master. This lens is also a fantastic lens. I have a different variable ND on it at all times. Again, I think this is also from the Freewell system. This is a 3 to 7 stop, I believe, magnetic VND. But yeah, the 35mm focal length, I think for most filmmakers is still considered pretty wide, but kind of like the sweet spot, especially for prime lenses and portrait lenses. If I can bring both the 24 and the 35, sometimes I will, but typically I either pick either the 24 or the 35. And then the third type of lens I'll bring is a much tighter focal length. So I'm either going to bring the 50mm f1.2. This is also a G Master lens. The f1.2 is honestly, it's a little bit overkill. It's a really impressive and really unique look on a full frame camera. The depth of field is almost like medium format-ish, and you get a really, again, unique look when you shoot with this lens. If you're shooting in like really low light situations, I would probably lean towards this just because you have f1.2 and that extra low light capability is honestly really useful as a solo filmmaker. And alternatively, when I can, I'll bring the 70 to 300. I think this is a G lens. This is kind of a slept on zoom lens. I don't see many people talking about it. It's obviously not as high quality as a G Master or the 70 to 200, but the 70 to 300 serves a very specific purpose when I want to get either super zoomed in shots, handheld, or I just want like more environmental shot or a more punched in look. It's really versatile. I use it primarily a lot in my Solomon campaigns I did a couple years ago, and it's got built-in OSS. So the stabilization, even at like a super punched in 300mm, is not too crazy. It works really well with the in-camera stabilization that you get either in the Sony FX3 or the A7C II. But it's pretty big. It's pretty heavy, especially at 300. You get that really huge zoomed kind of like form factor. So unless I have it planned in my specific shoot, or I know that I'm going to use it a lot on a specific shoot, I'm not packing that bad boy. It's just too big of a lens. So it's only on specialized occasions. Moving on to stabilization, I usually use two things. First, my gimbal. I've been using the DJI RS3 Pro extensively. I love it. I like it way more than the RS2. The RS3 Pro packs up really small and compact, and you can just toss it into the top compartment of your Wander Provoke backpack, whatever backpack you use. My favorite feature about the RS3, and I believe, I'm sure like the RS4 has it as well. I haven't even tested the RS4. I would like to. DJI, I would like to. but I haven't gotten around to purchasing it. The RS3 Pro, what I love about it is if you double tap, I believe, the power button, it auto locks. It's such an underrated feature. Being able to quickly lock the gimbal compared to the RS2 where you have to like manually slide on the locks for each part of the gimbal, the 3 axes. You don't have to do that for the RS3 Pro, and I'm sure the RS4 has it, but you just double click it, it auto locks. When you want to get going again, you double click it again and it goes back to whatever setting you had before. It's honestly my favorite gimbal I've ever used, and I'll continue using it until it breaks or I get the RS4 or 5 or whatever iteration it is on now. And for the tripod, I use the Siri, I don't even know what this is called, the travel tripod, Traveler X. I'll have it linked, but it's basically a really lightweight carbon fiber tripod that you rotate to extend or kind of like compartmentalize. I just really like it because it's super light and compact. I mean, it's not the most sturdy, obviously, but when you're solo filmmaking, you just need a tripod. This is the thing I gravitate towards. For the most part, the rotation parts don't sag even under weight, but it's not like the most intuitive system. I would probably reach for like a clamp instead of a twist tripod, but for what it is, the Siri is pretty useful. I don't even remember what the price point is, but I think it's not too expensive. I might be wrong. Let's check how much it was. For audio, I'm always bringing the Sony ECM1 microphone, which is honestly, it's a game changer. If you're in the Sony ecosystem, this microphone is something you must purchase, and it's just changed my life. There are no wires on this microphone. It's just a hot shoe attachment. You just plug it in, lock it onto the top of your camera, and it automatically syncs. And if you just leave it on the auto feature, it'll make sure that you have the correct gain level. And it has a bunch of different options for the direction of where you want your audio to come from. You can either do like front and back, you can do a certain direction, a wide or tighter field of audio, not field of view, or you can do spatial, but typically I just have it kind of like that omnidirectional, one directional area where I just pop it on, I leave it. There's no cables, which in the past, cables can be annoying if you don't have them plugged in all the way in. Your audio is completely screwed. And so the non-cable, just super easy use of the ECM1 is my favorite. And then for lav mics, I'll typically bring one of these two first. If I don't have to do like professional sounding audio and I just need like a quick kind of like creator, or I just need a clip-on mic, I'll use this, I think it's called the Rode Wireless Micro. It's basically the USB-C version of the Rode microphones. Basically, it's got 2 receivers and a transmitter, which you plug directly into your iPhone. I guess technically you can do your laptop. And it's super easy to pair with your phone. You just plug it in, pop it on, it auto syncs, and then you just talk through the microphone. You can magnetically attach it to yourself. It's super easy to use. I just use the voice memo or the voice recordings in the iPhone to record my audio, and then I'll just sync it up later. If I need a nice lav setup though, I'll use the Rode, I think it's Wireless Go 2. This is kind of like your typical wireless lav setup where you get the transmitter, you pop it onto your camera, and then you pop on the other receiver, I guess is what it's called. You plug in the lav mic, and then you can kind of lapel it or just pin it onto yourself, and it's super easy, super intuitive, and the audio quality is honestly, it's really nice. The only thing is that you have to carry like the charging case as well as the other case for all of your cords, and so that can get a little bit finicky when you're working by yourself. So when possible, I'm using the Rode Wireless Micro, but when I need a bit more quality, I'm using the Wireless Go 2, I believe it's called. First up, you might notice that I don't even work with a monitor. I think monitors, for the most part, for what I do, they're a bit too much bulk to especially set up and have on when you want to film in tight spaces and be really on the go. So when I do need a monitor, I'll just use the app Monitor Plus, either on my iPhone or my iPad. It's super easy to connect by scanning the QR code on your actual camera system, and it's got a bunch of great pro features. It's super easy to use. You can click record focus directly from the app on your phone. If you wanted to use your phone on top of your camera as a traditional monitor, you could get a MagSafe attachment and just kind of like place it above your camera. I've seen a lot of people use that. It looks pretty intuitive, pretty easy to use. But for what I do, the actual built-in kind of flip out screen, the FX3 is fine. SD cards, I like the ProGrade V90 cards. The 256 gigabytes are what I use. I used to use, I think, Kingston or something until they like bricked. I just had problems with a bunch of different brands. But ProGrade so far, for the price point, I think it's great. I would honestly probably use Sony Tough cards, but they're just a little bit too expensive for what I do. Like it's a bit outside my budget. Other things I've got in my bag are an air blower. You definitely need one of these for when you want to get dust out of your sensor. And then I've got a bunch of extra batteries. I've got like 2 or at least 3 fully charged batteries on every shoot, and I just pop them again into those little compartments in my Wander backpack. For BTS capture, I like to use the Insta360 on the shoulder clamp that we talked about a lot earlier, where you kind of just attach it to your shoulder and leave it, click and record. And because it's 360 footage, you can easily reframe and recrop. I use the Insta360, I believe X5 now. now. And I think X4 and X5, they're both really good to use. You don't need like the latest and greatest 360 camera. As long as you have a 360 camera kind of positioned off to your side, it allows you to get a lot of great BTS footage by yourself when you're solo, and it's super useful to have for social cut downs and for YouTube videos. And then finally, I like to use my iPhone 17 Pro. Now I use my iPhone a lot for BTS capture, and I'm going to do a full breakdown on the iPhone 17 Pro specifically in more a cinematic style with the variable ND, which I'm using the Freewell iPhone filmmaking kit. It's basically a magnetic VND that you can pop onto your iPhone. And I also use the Lexar, I don't know what the specific model is. It's the 1 terabyte USB-C thing that you can just pop onto your phone. I'll do a whole breakdown on my iPhone setup, but I usually have that in case I want to shoot on my iPhone specifically, or if I just want to focus on BTS, I like using this bite clamp that I built. This bite clamp is basically a GoPro bite mount attached to a MagSafe attachment where you can just pop on your iPhone and clamp on to the bite mount using your mouth. And it's honestly, it's the perfect POV angle for anything. I also use this magic arm, which is super useful for creative shots. You can just rotate it and screw it into the tilt-a-rig. I mean, you could even rotate and screw this into the FX3 itself. But I'm sure you've seen these on social media a lot. They're a really useful tool for locking off things and creating those sort of like POV movement style shots that are a lot of fun. A lot of my reels, I use this specific rig. I haven't seen anybody create or sell this specific rig, and I think it's super useful for creators to have like a nice POV thing that you can use through your phone. So it's something that I use all the time. But yeah, stay tuned for the iPhone 17 Pro filmmaking review that I'm gonna do soon. I'm doing a lot of test footage right now and just figuring out what works and whether or not it's a viable option. But stay tuned for that. So yeah, that was my updated solo filmmaking kit. Honestly, it changes a lot depending on which shoot I'm going for. But for the most part, I'd say what I spoke about today is living in my bag and on every single shoot. If you have any questions on any of the specific pieces of gear, or if you have any recommendations, that's what I'm most interested in. I'm interested in hearing about what you use and what you would recommend I pick up, because I always like to hear recommendations and find out new ways that I can better my overall flow and my overall gear selection. If you like my sound design, my color grade, please check out the link down below for my shop. It's got everything linked down there, and it's a huge help to the channel. And if you made it to the end of the video, please leave the comment solo so I know that you're a real one. Thanks again for watching to the very end, and I'll see you guys in the next one.